I was teaching class one day, and had a student named Michael stick his tongue out at me. Now, Michael was an interesting kid. My former assistant principal, Steve Lydiot, used to describe Michael as a fart in a skillet. I do not know what that means, but I know everybody that ever met Michael would go, yeah, that kid's a fart in a skillet, it makes sense. So I was teaching probably something equally as engaging as Manifest Destiny, and he stuck his tongue out at me. And it struck me as strange that day. Normally I would have just said, hey, don't do that, but I kind of went off that day, and I went, Mikey, I think it's weird that you stick your tongue out at me. And he goes, why? And I said, I don't know why people do that. It's like you said, Mr. Steger, I disapprove of the requirement of complete sentences. In order to demonstrate my disapproval, I'm going to show you what I taste things with. It just didn't make sense to me. And then I continued to go off. I used to work security at these country concerts and rock concerts, and whenever I'd work security at the country concerts, there would be thousands of cowboys and wannabe cowboys. And when they really liked the country music, they would take off their hat like this and hold it up and go, woo. And it's like they were saying, Dierks Bentley, really like you. And I like that song about that little white tank top. Won't you look inside my hat? It was just a strange way to demonstrate approval. And then I had another student there, not a fart in the skillet, Riley. Riley was legit. She ended up being class president later when she got to high school. And she said, Mr. Steger, when somebody does a good job, we could show them our shoes. And I went, why, Riley? Why would we do that? And she said, it's not any dumber than that cowboy hat thing, and it's more original than clapping. And I went, okay, Riley, sounds like a great idea. And I didn't think anything else of it. And then probably a week later in class, we were talking about something, and somebody said, okay, anybody tell me what peculiar institution means? And Levi raises his hand and said, peculiar institution, that's what the South used to use as a term for slavery to kind of make it more not so harsh. And Riley went, I forgot that. Good answer, Levi. And because Riley was a leader, the rest of the kids went, and all took off their shoes and held it up. And Riley made a consistent habit out of this. Yeah, I don't know if you remember earlier, I was describing my room hallway. So other people walk through my room. Well, that was second period history. Sometimes other students would walk through and they'd be like, Mr. Steger, what's up with the shoe thing? I said, Riley says it's a way that we can tell people they did a good job. So if you think somebody did a good job, make sure you take off your shoes and hold them up. And then my other 4 history classes all start to do this all the time. Anytime somebody does a good answer, every once in a while, even at the end of the day, hey, Mr. Steger, that lecture didn't suck. Here's my shoe. And it started to go and spread further and further. I couldn't go around town without seeing shoes. I was in the mall one day and I heard Mr. Steger, and I turn around and there's Ellie, and she's got both her flip-flops off and she's holding around her head like bunny ears. And her mom's like, put your shoes on, we're in the mall. I was riding my bike down the street one day and I hear this honk honk and there's a pair of Doc Martens dangling outside an Escalade window. I went to the donut shop, and it was a little 6th grader. I didn't have this little 6th grader in class, but every time he saw me on Sunday morning at the donut shop, he would take off his shoes and show them to me. It happened, it became more than just a positive acknowledgement, it became a way to say hello. And then every year we had a student-staff basketball game. They had me play on it. I'm not a basketball player, but it was a good time anyway. But they introduce all the teachers, and you would play against the 8th grade boys and girls. They do a lottery to see which ones got to play. And they'd announce all the teachers and say nicknames and the whole 9 yards. And they said, you know, blah, 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 Mr. Steger. And my entire 8th grade class, up in the stands, takes their shoes off and holds them in the air. And the other 8th grade class is like, all right. And then the 6th and 7th graders, the 8th graders do it. So I had a gym full of kids. You ever seen that movie, Say Anything? It was like that part in Say Anything where he's holding the boombox outside. But instead of the boombox, it was shoes. Instead of Peter Gabriel, it was smell. And my principal's looking at me like, what are you doing to these kids? But it got to be bigger than me. I couldn't stop it. One of my good buddies, Brian Cashland, the other history teacher, called me up one day and said, you know, the shoe thing you do, the shoe thing, have you been watching the Husker game? And I was like, no, I don't watch the Husker game. I graduated from the other university. Go Big Blue. Anyway, he said, well, I saw Chad, was he in your class? I was like, yeah, I think Chad's younger brother was in my class. Anyway, I was watching him, and it was like kickoff, and they showed the student section, and Chad took his shoe off and held it in the air. And then everybody did. You're global. It's ESPN. Anyway, I think they just do that for kickoff, but thanks. But it got to be one of those things where I ended up not having it be something that I thought it was going to be this big, and it blew up bigger than me. It became one of those traditions that was organic. I didn't get in the way of it, and it was really student-driven, and to this day, there will still be... I'll have students come back and visit me at Emerson Elementary and say, are you doing the shoe thing at Emerson? Nah, I've got some other stuff going. But I will still be, every once in a while now, it's happened on occasion, because they are of that age now, students from that class, that I will walk into a bar and be like, Stack, buy you a shot?